On board the car ferry from the northernmost tip of Scotland to the Orkney Islands is the world's most famous female climber, Catherine Destivelle from France. She's here with her husband Eric to fulfill a dream.
For your information, ladies and gentlemen, we'll shortly pass Au-delà on the starboard side.
For me, the Old is quite different because I really don't know this climb. I don't know the rock, so I really don't know how I will feel and how I will like the rock, so we'll see.
Catherine Destivelle's adventures have taken her from Africa to the Antarctic, from the Eiger to Annapurna. Now, on a bleak and windy moor, Catherine approaches her next challenge, the Old Man of Hoy.
I started climbing in the mountain first, then a few years later I started climbing on competitions, so it was real sport climbing.
This is the person the whole crowd have been waiting for, Catherine Destivelle.
People think I'm a more sport climber because I was more well known as a sport climber than a mountain climber.
It was on the indoor climbing scene that Catherine Destivelle achieved world renown. Being world champion 4 years running brought immense publicity and popularity. Yet she came to competitions at the relatively old age of 25. This was largely due to her early training on the sandstone boulders of Fontainebleau, which had given her immense finger strength, agility and extraordinary acrobatic skill. These skills have shown themselves time and again on some of the hardest rock climbs in the world, the canyons and deserts of America, and culminating in a new route on the Bonatti Pillar of the Dru in the French Alps.
I gave up from competition climbing because I had enough of training, enough to eat nothing. It's quite hard when you compete. You have to be very fit each time you go to a competition. And at the end I had enough. I thought I was too old to accept all these things. So I quit and I came back on big mountains.
One of the first was the Trango Tower in the Karakoram Himalaya, once described by Chris Bonington as being like the Old Man of Hoy, only 10 times bigger. It's one of the most desirable peaks. Catherine and American climber Jeff Lowe took up the challenge in 1990. Rock climbing in the thin, cold air of 20,000 feet with a heavy sack is a far cry from the world of gymnast chalk, rock slippers and lycra tights. For Catherine, the successful ascent of the Trango Tower was a stepping stone to greater things. But there have on occasions been tension between her mountaineering objectives and her very public media image. It's something that has not always been easily resolved.
Sometimes I enjoy to be famous, sometimes not, when I want to be alone. But I don't think I have any control on what people say about me. When they say something wrong or something not true, exactly true, I don't like so much. But when they say, yeah, sexy image or something like this, yeah, why not? In fact, I don't care. It's not my ability on climbing they judge. It's something else, so it doesn't matter. But each time it's never what you expected. So now you have to be strong, and the most important thing is to have good friends around you to support all this pressure, because it's kind of pressure when people speak about you in a way that you don't to recognize yourself. I grew up with a dream. I wanted to be a shipkeeper, like Heidi and or Belle et Sébastien. They were kids and they were able to live in the mountains, and I was dreaming about that. So that's why I wanted to go in the mountains. I didn't know that I would climb, but at the beginning I wanted just to be in the mountain with the cows and sheep. My sisters and my brother climbed a little bit when they were small, as kids, but then after that they stopped. But if they go climbing, they are still quite good, because you never forget. I did climb a Lindex in Chamonix. I was maybe 10 years old or 9, I don't remember exactly, with my father and a friend of my father. It was very good. I like it a lot. We climbed with ropes, with harness, with helmets. For me it was real alpinism. And I was very proud when we came down. I was very, very happy because it was my dream.
Now Catherine's latest dream is to visit the Orkneys, not just to climb, but to experience the strange mysteries of prehistory. The purpose of the standing stones has never been completely explained. Neither have the reasons why climbers climb. But if you even begin to understand their strange compulsion, it's clear that the Old Man of Hoy is an obvious challenge. The Old Man is a sea stack, the last remnant of an ancient headland eroded over the centuries by crashing wind and waves. Over the eons, the Atlantic Ocean has left an extraordinary 450-foot high freestanding tower of tottering sandstone, and in the scheme of geological time, the Old Man of Hoy could collapse at any moment. Until the mid-1960s, no one had ever dared to challenge the Old Man, unless you believe the legend that an islander climbed it for a bet in the 19th century. Apparently he won his bet, but left his pipe on the summit and had to climb the stack a second time to retrieve it. Unfortunately, similar legends exist surrounding almost every freestanding tower in Europe, and probably the whole world. In 1966, the renowned Scottish climber Tom Patey persuaded Chris Bonington and South African climber Rusty Bailey to make the long journey up to Hoy. Both were sceptical about the Old Man, fearing that it would be suicidally loose and could even collapse. They spent a day trying to find a place to start the climb, another day climbing a long crack using pitons and wooden wedges, and yet a third day before Chris Bonington climbed the final corner to the top. 30 years later, Catherine and Eric walk over the moors towards the Old Man, the first sight of which still provokes the same feelings of awe and respect as it did for the pioneers. Catherine's immediate reaction is to trace the line of the route she had read about in books and magazines. The Old Man of Hoy is about 450 feet high and is made of sandstone. The first section goes up a relatively easy pillar and then makes a rather horrible traverse to the right to the bottom of a huge and rather forbidding crack about 80 feet high. The crack overhangs twice in its length, the first time relatively easily, but the second time is a horrible coffin-like slot in which the climber immerses themselves to pull out onto the vertical corner above. Above this, the climb is relatively easy for about 150 feet, up horizontally bedded sandstone, to the bottom of a beautiful vertical open book corner. And this provides the best rock of the climb, is relatively easy and hugely enjoyable because the holds are firm and you bridge up with this huge drop underneath to get to the summit. To our knowledge, the Old Man of Hoy has never been soloed, and it certainly hasn't been soloed by a woman before. The difficulty, I suspect, for Catherine is that most of her climbs have been done in perfect conditions, have been extremely well rehearsed, and she's been in total control. Up here on Orkney, the weather, as you can see, is bleak, windy, and the climb itself is not so much difficult but intimidating. And I think it's this intimidating nature, particularly of the second pitch, that Catherine's going to find the real problem. In reality, the weather on her arrival was so threatening that Catherine decided to have a very close look at the old man, climbing with Eric and hoping that if and when the weather improved, she would be able to solo it with a greater margin of safety.
Il y avait un phoque.
Ça
Peut-être qu'il est passé.
Là, dans le récif ou...
Juste là, juste là.
Ah ouais. Cimes.
High gusting winds and the worst June weather for 100 years made even rope climbing a serious undertaking, and Catherine, always safety conscious, wanted to understand and experience the secrets of the climb before she took the irrevocable step of committing herself to a solo ascent. For Catherine, these first moves were to be a moment of truth. Would the friable, lichen-covered sandstone be too dangerous to even contemplate soloing?
I like to climb towers because it's quite impressive. Above the sea like this, it's beautiful. I like the ambience, the birds, so it's quite new and it's quite an adventure.
The Old Man of Hoy is festooned with remnants of old rotting ropes blowing in the wind, silent witnesses to past assaults on the tower. These ropes were almost all abandoned during descents, for retreat on the Old Man is a serious and potentially lethal business. The ropes are an eyesore and are certainly not to be trusted.
An Old Man of Hoy with a rope is not very hard. The problem is when you want to climb solo, it's not a very good rock. You have a lot of birds, a lot of shit, a lot of mud. So you have to take care all the time, not to slip. After one or two pitch, you feel on a very steep thing. So I like it a lot.
In the last few years, Catherine has climbed almost exclusively with the man who is now her husband, French mountain guide Eric Decamp.
She was happy to have me as a partner to see the route, to take decisions and to help for the movie. But in a way it's a technical support more than personal support. The personal thing exists, but it's beside. But if I had no real reason of being here, I would not have come.
What Eric didn't say was that Catherine was now 3 months pregnant, perhaps the most compelling reason for his supportive presence.
I don't climb in solo if I'm not sure that I will be able to do it. The fact I'm pregnant doesn't change anything. I would not do this climb if I knew it would be too dangerous. Anyway, pregnant or not pregnant, I'm not stupid, I'm not going to kill myself. So, but yeah, it's not too hard too, it's not too long, so I'm not going to lose my baby. I hate to be scared, so I imagine a lot of things who could happen. So that's why I'm quite safe when I go climbing. Just don't want things to be bad.
I think it's never very comfortable to see anybody soloing, because even if you are absolutely confident, you cannot say that nothing can ever happen. So it's certainly not comfortable. But I'm confident that she has enough safety margin.
Once back on the ground, Catherine gives her first impressions.
Sandy, very sandy and very greasy, and
Did you go all the way to the top?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's no problem.
She felt confident about her ability to solo the whole climb, with the exception of the second pitch, which she feels would be too dangerous to climb without a rope to protect herself.
It's too dangerous.
All the pies.
Wrote to Eric that she was victim of a bizarre accident.
Last year they asked me to climb this tower, but I had an accident. In Antarctic, I broke my leg. It was a stupid accident. I was doing photos on top of a mountain, and I lost my balance, and that's all, fell.
So she went backwards on the slope. Then I had just enough time to just check that there was enough rope to be able to slow her down slowly. Otherwise everything would have gone out. So, and then I could stop her, which is a thing you learn when you learn climbing in snow. But you have very few occasions of doing it in real situations. Well, it worked. And then I was hoping that nothing really bad happened. So I asked, how are you? She told me, I broke my leg, open.
The problem was to go down. It was a big face. So it took us 16 hours, and I was with Eric. We were only two of us.
From this moment, we shared the roles. She took care of her pain and everything, and I took care of getting down because she could not stand. So we had to climb down the way we climbed up. And she was absolutely confident that I was able to climb down and let her climb down on the rope, pitch after pitch. And I was absolutely confident that she was dealing with her pain.
My main problem was to stay awake. I was afraid to lose my conscience. And so I fight against that. But when we arrived at the tent, I was quite happy. It was like home. And we had to wait 2 or 3 days more because we had a big storm then, and the plane couldn't come before. So it was quite hard, but in fact I was not too worried, just because I knew what exactly I had.
Catherine could hardly be better qualified to solo the Old Man of Hoy. Her career had reached a climax in 1992 when she climbed the notorious north face of the Eiger alone in winter in just 15 hours.
There is a lot of stories on this peak. A lot of people died, and also I wanted, when I was young, for an alpinist, you think the Eiger is the most important and most beautiful face and most difficult face. So I thought when I was 17 I will do the Eiger when I will be 25. I decided like that, but in fact I stopped climbing, so I didn't realize my dream. The reputation of the mountain is quite important because while I was young, I was dreaming about the Eiger, about the Grand Jurass, about Matterhorn, and I dreamed a lot about this face, especially the North Face. So I think that's why I decided to climb them. I have a good memory about the North Face of the Eiger because everything was fine. I climbed quite fast. I had no major problems, and I almost knew everything because I read a lot of articles and books, and I spoke with a lot of people. So I was very ready for this climb. So I was quite happy to climb it, and it was fun.
Few, if any, climbers who have survived an ascent of the north face of the Eiger have described as fun the climb that has claimed countless lives over the years. For Catherine, it put the seal on her transformation from rock athlete to all-round mountaineer, and in 1994 she turned her attention to another great alpine challenge, this time a solo ascent in winter of the north face of the Matterhorn.
The first thing I remember about Matterhorn is that when I started to climb this, I was not sure to succeed. And it was quite exciting to not be sure. Because I heard it was very hard, lot of people tried before, and nobody succeed. I didn't want to do the Smith route on the north face, it's the classic one, because I knew that I would do it. So I decided to do the Bonatti Route, which I was not sure to succeed. And the climb was quite interesting, quite hard and delicate. And after the first day, at the end of the first day, I thought I would go down because it was terrible, and also I did a mistake. I dropped my gloves, my headlamp and stuff like this. All my first aid kit also. So I was a little embarrassed with this problem. But after a good night, I decided to go on because I felt a lot better and I saw the rock. So when I see rocks, I like to climb. So I decided to go on, and I felt better the second day, in fact.
Back on Hoy, the weather is still grey and depressing, but with time running out, Catherine decides it's time to attempt her solo ascent. An old weather-beaten notice gives her some pause for thought.
Here is my bag. It's the bag I will take on the climb, and it's all inside. It's just the stuff I need for the solo. I need the rope to be able to come down, and it's down jacket in case it's cold, hat and stuff to eat, and that's all. Yeah, but just before, of course, I have my harness on, my shoes on and stuff like this, and my figure 8 to go down.
This time, as they approach the old man, Catherine and Eric face a new threat. The Arctic skua is an aggressive, highly territorial bird known in the Orkneys and Hebrides as the bonxie. Approach its nest, however unintentionally, and the bonxie will attack. Farmers on Hoy have been known to insert slates into their flat caps to protect their skulls from its slashing beak. Bird hazards just have to be accepted, but safety on the old man is a very different matter. I think one of the most common questions that climbing filmmakers get asked is how does the cameraman get up there first? And the answer on one level is rather boring because of course we are all climbers, and we have a safety team of excellent climbers, and cameramen relied very much on the gear, the rigging that the safety officers put in. Within the network of climbers and filmmakers, most of us know and trust each other completely. Here John Whittle and Dave Cuthbertson, Cubby to all who know him, are helping cameraman Gavin Crowther to get into position to film the crucial second pitch.
With the ropes on the next pitch. So maximum flexibility. Yeah.
The safety team's importance cannot be exaggerated. If they do their job well, they make the filmmaker's job far easier and give them a very real boost in confidence. Above all, they reduce the danger to the minimum. Both John and Cubby are fully qualified guides as well as brilliant climbers in their own right and know exactly what they're doing. Here, John Whittle is preparing to climb on a day of high winds that would deter most people from going anywhere near the old man. It's vital that he rigs the second pitch, leaving safety ropes for Gavin to secure him as he films completely free of the rock. Once again at the foot of the old man, Catherine goes through the ritual of preparations for her solo ascent. Now she is silent, gathering all her concentration, like an athlete before the big race, totally focusing on the job in hand. Even the easy moves on the first pitch are made slowly and deliberately. She is building up a rhythm, becoming attuned to the rock and taking almost exaggerated care to distribute her weight evenly in case any of the holds should break. It's the kind of climbing that's almost too easy, yet the rock on this lower section is perhaps the worst on the whole climb.
Climbing in solo is quite dangerous. I would not recommend to people to do that. I started to solo climb very young. I was 13, 14. But you must know that if you fall, you are dead. But I like it. I never take risk. I don't like to be scared, but when the climb is not too hard for me, I enjoy it a lot because you feel free to climb as fast as you want and you feel free to do whatever. And you have the impression that you are a very good climber, so that it's quite enjoyable. But that's all. It's not something you must do every day because it's not very good to get used to. If you do that too much, you forget that you don't have no ropes, so it's not good.
Catherine's husband, Eric, is a mountain guide in Chamonix. His entire professional climbing life is dedicated to safety in the mountains. So how does he feel about sharing his life with a woman who might seem, to a non-climber, to be taking almost suicidal risks?
What?
She did a lot of things. She had to face a lot of tricky situations, and she proved that she was able to keep realistic and not to go too far in the risk. So that's why she's alive, and I think it's not chance. Someone said that the best climbers are those who are alive, and I share this opinion. It's a balance between being courageous, courage, willingness, ambition, and being a little lazy, because you have to choose a difficult thing to do, but the art of climbing is to find the easiest way to do it.
To be a good climber or a good mountain climber, you need two qualities. The most important is to have confidence and to have the determination to do something. And why you have confidence? It's just because you have a lot of experience and you know exactly what you are able to do. When I solo climb, if I would be afraid, I couldn't climb at all. But I'm afraid to be afraid. So that's why I take care not to find the dangers and to avoid the dangers. When you climb, you find you express yourself, but in a fun way. In fact, I found my balance like this. I think it was good for my life.
Now comes the test. Before she sets out on the solo climb, Catherine had decided to use a safety rope for the second pitch. Now she explains to the crew how her system works.
Yeah, I'm going to fix this blue rope on the belay somewhere, and then I will put the rope through this grigri. It's something I work on it to make it better for this type of use. And so let's see. So probably it's better not to mix up everything. Yes, like this. So if I fall, this is stuck. This is fixed here.
Right.
If I fall, I can't go very far. But also I will have the end of the rope here. So in case this system doesn't work, I will hang at the end of the rope, and a lot of scare. I would be very afraid, but no major injuries. I'm not going to die. I found that in the second pitch I prefer to self-belay myself because the holes are sandy, it's muddy. The hold for the feet are never great. It's too much sandy, and I think if I solo that I will be scared, and so if you are scared you don't climb very well. So I don't want that.
So off she goes. Even this first bit's slightly unnerving because although your feet are on a big ledge, the rock bulges awkwardly above you, and there's a danger of your feet just skating off and you overbalancing. But she seems to have made pretty light weather of that.
Ça part pas terrible. Traverser. It's not very good on traverse.
I think that this self-belaying system works very well on vertical and clean rock, but it's obviously a bit more difficult to arrange when she's going sideways.
Now it would be better.
But from now on she is going straight up, so with luck it'll sort itself out. It's a system that many climbers would find incredibly complicated to use, and it seems to me to be something you can quite easily get wrong. She's pulled all the rope up onto the ledge behind her, and it should run relatively freely now. Let's see. Every time she moves she's got to give herself enough slack to do the next few moves before the rope catches up against this device called a grigri that is critical to the whole operation. So she's just coming up now to the first serious challenge on this pitch, which is an overhang which looks quite intimidating, but isn't perhaps quite as difficult as it looks once you commit yourself to it. You can see the overhang above her head, and what Catherine's got to do is move up and then step round to the right, get her feet up on the right wall, and actually the holds are quite reasonable, if rather sandy.
C'est chiant, arrête pas de se bloquer, mon truc.
The temptation always is to get stuck in cracks. They seem to be comforting, but here you've got to abandon the crack and move out right. Yeah, she's got to get her feet up on the right wall. There she goes, that's it. Feet up, don't get too far in. Here she goes. Yes, both feet up on the right wall, and no, she's made that look ridiculously easy. She's just waltzed up it, really. You can see up by her left hand a bit of ancient old mildewed and rotting rope, possibly a remnant of the first ascent, and not one that you'd trust with anything much bigger than a a very light cardboard box. What Catherine's particularly good at is distributing her weight. You can see she's pressing, pulling, pushing, gaining height almost effortlessly, spreading the load, bridging out with her feet and hands. Lovely to watch. Although Catherine isn't exactly muscle-bound, she's got immense power-to-weight ratio and great reserves of finger strength should she need it. She can hang on one arm for as long as it takes, but let's hope she doesn't have to. And again, this next section is not too bad. She's just going to put some protection in and sort her system out, but you can see where she's got to go now, this big coffin-shaped chimney above her. And the real trick in this next 15 feet is not to get too deeply buried into the chimney. It's very tempting and it feels very secure to wedge yourself into the back. There are quite good holds for your hands and feet, but the further inside you get, the harder it is to get out at the top. And the danger is she'll get herself, could get herself almost stuck in the bowels of the chimney. In fact, she's got so far in now you can hardly see her at all. Oh, seems to have.
Merde.
She really mustn't drop the rucksack because it's got the spare rope in it for her descent, or if she gets into any kind of difficulties. I don't know what she's going to do with it. Clip it to something, I suppose, while she does the next moves, but it's clearly getting in the way. And really, these next moves are the crux of the whole climb. You can see what to do with your hands, but as you climb out of the crux, your feet, it's very easy to get your feet lost and out of sight, and you have to work out very carefully what you're going to do with them. Otherwise you just end up dangling off your arms and unable to make any more progress. It's a pretty alarming position, this. What it must feel like soloing. Ah, here comes the sack. Stuck again a bit.
Putain.
Oh, it's round the overhang. Oh, Catherine, don't drop it. Oh, that's it. And although she's now posed over about 200 feet of empty space, really the next 2 or 3 moves should see her into a much more reasonable, imbalanced situation. In fact, she's already probably done the hardest bit. She's got a very good hand jam for her right hand, slotted firmly into that crack on the right. I'm not too sure I want to pull on that flake with my left hand. Not this sort of sandstone, but the right hand should be slotted into that crack above, like that. That's nice and secure. You can see on the left these tatty old ropes that have been abandoned, and she certainly doesn't want to get anywhere near those. She's really done almost the last hard move of the climb. Once she gets her foot up above the slot, she should be okay. Now she's going to put a big flexible cam into the crack.
If you hear me, it's very wet. Wet, absolutely wet. I don't know why. It's...
Well, must say, I don't know why either. It hasn't actually rained for the last 24 hours, but there's obviously water seeping down the back of that crack, and far from being all over, Catherine's got a bit of a fight on her hands now. Yeah, the water may have seeped down from the upper part of the climb into the crack, and that would make it extremely awkward for her. She's now about 60 feet up the crack and about as far away from the belay. I hate to think what would happen if she fell off here. Her problem is that she would fall out into space because she's climbed 2 overhangs now, and she really is some 10 feet out from the belay at the bottom of the climb. Obviously climbing on wet rock is more strenuous. You have to make more of an effort to make your hands and feet stick.
Merde, tiens. It's very wet. Dangerous.
Took the words out of my mouth. I mean, in fact, I think she probably is okay, but it must be very unnerving to suddenly find, particularly, as I say, it hasn't rained for a day, that you're suddenly on wet, slimy sandstone. Sandstone, when it's wet, is a particularly insecure feeling. As you can see, she's only really got about another 10 or 15 feet to go, and really she has cracked the hardest bit now. It's not, in fact, she's now onto relatively big ledges. I think probably this rock is perfectly dry, and she should be okay now. In fact, she's got to the belay ledge. Oh, well done, Catherine. Above the dangerous second pitch, the climbing is more straightforward, and Catherine leaves behind her complicated rope protection system and climbs on free and unencumbered. Catherine is about to come face to face with the old man's next and nastiest line of defence.
Shh, not move. Bird. Oh, merde.
Not only is it a shock to be puked on from point-blank range, but from now on, Catherine's face, hair and clothes will be covered by a vile-smelling concoction of half-digested fish and fish oil. Once again, the old man is proving a very different proposition to the sunny limestone crags of the south of France or the granite walls of Colorado. On these narrow ledges, Catherine moves with total self-confidence, seemingly oblivious of the 300-foot drop below her. She climbs so naturally and with such elegance that it's easy to forget the combination of skill, concentration and experience that she has amassed over a lifetime of climbing at the very highest level. Space snapping at her heels now. The climbing, as I say, on this piece is really quite... Oh, she's going to have another little confrontation now.
Oh putain, un oiseau.
That's right, try and avoid it altogether. Perhaps she can't.
Hey, yep.
Oh well, that's one way of solving the problem.
since I became a professional, nothing changed. I still like to climb, I still like being in the mountains. So I'm lucky to be able to do what I want, what I like. When I want to do something for myself, it's possible. And only for myself. I like to control everything. And I think it's very important to have the control. Like that you don't feel pressured. And if you don't want to kill yourself, it's better not to have pressure behind you. And I don't want to do climbs only for money or for publicity. It's not healthy.
She's now actually starting the last pitch, the last corner crack. The rock really is much friendlier now, even though it's steep again. It's what I call proper climbing. You can trust the wonderful, solid hand jams. The ledges are much less sandy. The rock's much harder than the other rock on the climb. And she must be feeling really confident now, because the top's only a matter of 25, 30 foot away, and well, she's climbing very easily. Most of the stress has gone out of it now. So again, it's quite a secure feeling bridging on each side of this open book corner. Rather curiously, you can see daylight through the top 10 feet or so of the climb. Presumably this pillar on the right will eventually become completely detached, but let's hope it doesn't do it now. At last, the end is not far away, and Catherine, over 400 feet above the sea, can relish the open book corner crack, where the rock steepens once more. But now it is sound and clean. No more seabirds, no loose holes, just the exhilaration of knowing that it's nearly over. For Catherine, already 3 months pregnant, climbing the Old Man of Hoy is a landmark in every sense of the word. Will motherhood change this remarkable woman? As she climbs the last few feet, she looks forward to a life of new challenges.
I still have some dreams, so I don't know what I will do. But so I will have a child very soon, so we'll see. But I think I will go on climbing, maybe in another way. We'll see.